Good evening, everyone, and we thank you for joining us this January 9th, Monday night for the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association monthly meeting. As you just saw on your screen, this meeting is being recorded. The recording of this meeting is hosted on YouTube and is available for viewing on our website, www.jeffreyspoint.org. You are not required to be either seen on the recording. You are not required to be heard on the recording. You are welcome to submit things through chat. If you do not wish to have your name displayed for any reason, you can also change that as well. Attendance is taken through the email address that you register with, so we would be able to track you that way. My name is Margaret, and I am co-chair of the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association. Rachel?
Hi, my name is Rachel Bloomerth, and I am the other co-chair of the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association. Susan?
Hi, I'm Susan. I am the vice chair. Andrew?
Hello, I'm Andrew Pike. I am the treasurer. Josh.
Hey, I'm Josh Schmidt. I am the secretary.
Excellent. I see we're joined this evening by Nathalia Benitez, who is the representative from the mayor, who is the mayor's liaison representative. And I am looking really quickly to see, and I see Gloria Bell Rivas, who is joined us this evening from Rep. Modero's office. We thank her for being here this evening. And I'm just looking to see if we see any other elected officials or their representatives. Does anybody on the board see anybody?
Sebastian Parra here from Councilor Coletta.
Oh, excellent. And you are welcome to change your name as it's listed to include her designation if you'd like. Sebastian.
Sounds good. Thank you.
No problem. Again, thank you for joining us this evening. We will start with a couple of announcements. Number one, we thank you all for joining us this evening. January is not a very busy month in the neighborhood, so we don't have a lot of announcements, but we do have a few. Eastie Farm is holding several trainings for starting vegetable seeds at home. The first one training is sold out, but there's a second training on February 1st at 8:30 p.m. That is not sold out and has spaces available. This class is free, and you are welcome to register online at eastiefarm.org or by searching Eastie Farm on Eventbrite. We'd also like to support as part of our announcements tonight, we want to support a local business. Carmela's Italian Market is currently surrounded by construction on both Everett Street and on Cottage Street, but they are open at this time. We encourage you to visit them. They've been open for decades here in the community and are a family-owned business. So just a reminder that Carmela's Italian Market is open and would love to see you. Also, another activity going on this month is that the Boston Parks Department is hosting a winter fitness series. It is going on at least through the month of January and some into the month of February. Fitness classes include Zumba, Afrobeat, yoga, and more. Classes are, of course, free, and some are in person at various sites around East Boston, and some are available online. In order to learn more, we encourage you to visit the website at www.boston.gov/fitness. The JPNA would like to make an announcement that we have received a great deal of feedback from people who attend our meetings on a regular basis that they would like to have more of an opportunity to speak out loud. We've heard you. We've had several internal discussions about how we can both respond and basically do what you want, and do it in such a way that we feel that would work well. So we're going to spearhead a pilot program at our planning and zoning meetings that would basically, as opposed to limiting speakers to abutters and then have all others submit questions through the chat, would open questions up to everyone. We are going to share more details about that at the next planning and zoning meeting, which would be on Wednesday, January 18th. So we'll share all the details in terms of order of speaking, times and all of those. But we do want you to know that we do hear you when you provide feedback. We do listen, and we do try to respond as quickly as we can. If you continue to have feedback about this meeting or other activities that the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association does, we hope you'll reach out. Part of our meeting this evening, after we complete the year in review, is actually to discuss what everyone would like to see this coming year. So we hope that you will stay and give us your thoughts at that time. Just a reminder that although we do not have any votes for this particular meeting, the JPNA uses e-ballot to manage the voting process. If we were to have a vote this evening, in order to be eligible, you must be here, number one, and then either be in a butter of a project, meaning you reside within a 300-foot radius of the project address, are a resident within the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association boundaries, meaning that you live here, not that you own a property or a business, but that you physically live here, and have attended one prior meeting in the past 3 months. Again, we do not have a vote this evening. I believe it was the 4 Haynes Street, which was originally scheduled for this evening, has been postponed to February. When they submitted their presentation, in reviewing the presentation, the board realized that there were structural changes. Now, in the past, we've had a few instances where people have made minor cosmetic changes between a planning and zoning and a voting meeting, and we've decided that a cosmetic change only is okay. However, a structural change is something that needs to return to a planning and zoning meeting. So 4 Haynes Street will be presenting January 18th at the planning and zoning, and then we'll come for a vote in February. I do not have that date in front of me at the moment, but we will have it by the end of the meeting. So we will start this evening, as we do with many of our meetings. He unmuted. He knew I was coming for him. We'd like to thank Officer Santolo for joining us this evening and giving us the opportunity to ask him some questions after he presents us with some of the latest crime stats. Officer Santolo, take it away.
Thank you, Margaret. Good evening, everybody. I just want to start. Excuse me. The one time I get a phone call all day. Okay, so we have a new CSO officer up at A7. Fortunately, Tom has retired. It's a heavy loss. It's a big loss. Tommy did a lot of good work. But with that, we were able to get a Jeffreys Point resident up here. And he also speaks Spanish, which was very important to me when I made my selection. There's a couple of good guys qualified for this position. But I got a good guy who lives in the neighborhood, and we're trying to connect with the Latino community, and I thought this was the best pick. He's a great guy. His name is Hugo Alvarez. Unfortunately, he's at the Harborview meeting right now, and he will be attending the next Jeffreys Point meeting. So we were in the news recently about motor vehicles being scratched and keyed. We did make an arrest on that. Fortunately, it was the same person who did it the last time. He got my car the first time on Haynes Street here, and he's in need of mental health assistance. It's really hard to be upset at him. Cost me some money, but I think his mental health isn't in question, and we're trying to get him the assistance he needs. We also had motor vehicle accidents on Bennington Street, near Brook Street, near Lolly's Bakery, which we're also in the news for. With the help of Nathalia and Adrian, we're working on getting some more lighting there, as well as a permanent light system. I know anybody from East Boston knows those lights at that intersection just blink, and it's not really, much of a help. So we are working on that. With that said, I have the crime stats for 2022 as opposed to 2021. Very quickly, and I'll go through them quick, and then if you have any questions, you can ask. We had no homicides this year, thank goodness, as opposed to 2 in 2021. Sexual assaults remain the same. 10, we're one of the lowest in the cities, but 10 too many. Robberies and attempted robberies are down. Domestic aggravated assaults and domestic and non-domestic aggravated assaults are up a little bit. The domestic ones become aggravated when it's an elderly person or somebody that has a disability. With domestic incidents, we would love to be there, but if it happens in a house, there's only so much we can do about that. We investigate, we make the arrest. Okay, commercial burglaries, unfortunately, was up. I remember at the beginning of the year, January, February last year, we had one person that was breaking into Up the Heights. They're doing Dunkin' Donuts, Little Asia, all the businesses up there. We did make an arrest on that, but that's why the number's a little bit inflated. Residential burglaries are down. The B&Es are down almost 50%, which is good. Larceny from motor vehicles are down, and as well as other larcenies are down from 2021. Auto theft. what Tommy Curtis and I speak about all the time. Half these auto thefts in East Boston are attributed to people just leaving their cars running and going in the house, going in the store. Take your keys out of the car, and we're going to be down in that category also. That's it for the crime stats and the update. Does anybody have any questions?
There are currently no questions in the chat. You have a question, Margaret? Go ahead.
I do actually. Could you just going back to Mr. Alvarez, could you clarify like what his title is and like when we should contact him as opposed to you?
So he's the senior response officer.
Okay.
But I only have 4 guys or girls up here. We all do everything. If you feel comfortable calling me, call me. I have no problem. I don't care if it's school related, senior response related. You can call me, but Hugo does take care of the seniors. That's going to be his role.
Okay.
But I also want to get across that if there's any Spanish speakers here that feel comfortable, I know some feel comfortable speaking to another Spanish speaking officer, and that's why he's up here. So we want to get that message out. If you feel comfortable calling us and talking to Hugo because he speaks that language, that's why he's here.
And just
Okay,
a reminder
that's really
that
helpful.
just a reminder to everybody that questions should go through the chat. It's not something where we'll speak out loud for this type of thing. So if you do have chat, and you can always put your questions in while Sergeant Santolo is speaking, definitely helps keep the meeting concise. I do actually have something I wanted to bring up, Sergeant Santolo. I have been witnessing a significant increase in the number of cars blowing through the intersection at at Cottage and Marginal Street, right at the entrance to Pierce Park. This is a heavily trafficked intersection with pedestrians, and people are just like completely ignoring the stop signs. Partially, I think, because cars are consistently parked very close to the intersection, which makes it difficult for people to see the stop sign. And the lines in the street probably need to be repainted as well. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention because I literally see it every single morning. Someone just like drives through the intersection without even stopping. And I don't know if it's because they don't feel like stopping or if they didn't see the stop sign, one or the other. So, but I wanted to bring it up because someone is going to get hurt there, unfortunately.
Yeah,
No.
Andrew,
Yes.
I put something in the chat, but can I just ask a question? This is with regard to Mary Ellen Walsh Greenway.
Okay.
As president, I'm speaking as president of the Mary Ellen Walsh Greenway. Officer Santolo, could you give us an update with regard to the, I had sent you an email with regard to the squatters or the homeless people that are sleeping underneath the caboose. It seems to have increased again, and there's a lot of graffiti on the caboose. Thank you.
Yes. And Karen, I was getting to your question next, just so you know.
Okay, Andrew, I'm gonna just circle back to your concern. Is it on Marginal at Cottage?
Yes. So people driving on Marginal Street, coming either direction, to be honest with you, at the Cottage Street intersection.
Okay. What I'll do is I'll email the captain as well as the other shift commanders. And we'll get somebody out there to monitor that. Thank you for bringing that.
That'd be great. Thank you.
And Karen, down by the caboose, and I say this all the time. We're moving the homeless from place to place. We're trying to get them sheltered. Fortunately, it's not a crime to be homeless. We have been working on getting them shelter, but most people either deny the shelter or go. We get them there for 1 or 2 days, decide for whatever reason is they don't want to stay, and they circle back here. We'll go back. This was an issue, the beginning of last year also. We moved them along. We helped them. The people who needed help got our help. As when it comes to shelter and food, there's a program called The Hub that I work with every Wednesday with all these resource people, and we do get the help if they want it. Okay, we will go back down there and make sure they move along, make sure they're not drinking, and make sure they're not doing graffiti and all that stuff. We will address.
Okay. The next question is in regards to the new police station. Is there any update with that?
There is, and I'm sorry. I'm glad you brought that up. We are moving in January 25th, and the ribbon cutting will be on the 31st.
Awesome. Sorry, my dogs are attacking each other in the background. Oh yes, someone else seconding my comment about that intersection. And
Okay.
then someone also mentioning that marginal at Orleans is also an issue. I wish the city would put in a second stop sign there so that there's a stop sign in both directions, but for some reason they don't want to.
Yeah, we addressed that when the tall ship was an issue down there about, notifying cars that it's a dead end down this way and more stop signs. We can come back and ask for more stop signs, but I think you're right. I think they wanted to put one there. So, but
Okay.
we'll for that. And when we're down there, it's usually it is a slower intersection as opposed to Bangton or Condor or Saratoga, and they probably see us and don't do it. So we'll go down there, go on a spot, and make sure we warn people about the speed
Okay.
and the.
Great. Someone's asking, do you know what time the ribbon cutting will be?
No time yet. I will email you. That's up to them. Maybe Nathalia can have more on that. We work on the
Thank
mayor's.
you. I have the time. Let me quickly take a look at the. So right now it is scheduled for 3 p.m.
Good to know. Thank you.
3 to 3:45. So.
You should probably be there earlier, Joe. You, it's like 2:30.
I'll probably be there at 7:30.
Yeah, probably. Okay, is that it for the questions in the chat, Andrew?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for Officer Santolo. We appreciate you being here. As always, we would ask you if you could put your contact information in the chat so that Andrew could share it out to everyone. As always, reaching out to the police, it's a confidential conversation, and they are always happy. One of the things that we've really appreciated about the police here in East Boston is they are both happy to answer questions and to be proactive. A reminder that you can dispose of medications in the lobby of the police station actually, that's a question. Will that move when you move to the new site? Will the disposal site move as well?
It's coming with us. Yeah, you have to come in and drop it off at the new station. But I'm glad you brought that up. It is confidential. You want to come and chat and have a coffee with me? You can talk off the record with me. I'm an East Boston guy. I grew up here. If you don't want to, we can talk off the record. We talk off the record, and whatever needs to be addressed, we'll address it.
Okay, thank you very much.
I
We
actually have,
appreciate
I'm sorry. I know we plan to not have Nathalia technically be on the agenda tonight because she didn't have any updates, but I actually do have one question for you, Nathalia, if you might know the answer to this. With the fact that they're not taking mattresses and box springs in the regular trash anymore, is that something we can 311?
Yeah, so it would be the same thing as like any other scheduled pickup. So you can call 311 and schedule a pickup, and they'll come and pick it up curbside.
Because there's been one across the street from me that's been sitting there for a week now because.
Oh no!
And I wasn't sure if that was on 311. I suppose I should have just.
No,
looked.
yeah, it's right on 311. We added the option, and it would be the same thing as like a bulk item.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry
No
for
problem.
the random question.
No.
So actually, I'm going to piggyback on that to remind people about special pickups because a ton of people got new televisions for Christmas. And so there's like 2 TVs on Webster Street. So I've had to put it in for 311 that you can get it picked up on your regular trash day, but you need to put a notice in through 311 because it is a scheduled special pickup.
Actually, let me send you, because I feel like it would be, since we're starting the new year, let me send what I think is a very useful tool for the residents to understand what they can bring out during regular trash day, what needs a special request, and what needs and what the city doesn't pick up. So I just sent Andrew a link.
Okay.
If you click the link and go to the bottom, it says, please type your home address, and where it says directory, you can just type the name of the item, and the city will tell you how to recycle or dispose of it. So then you understand.
The things that we tend to see on the street that people don't realize need a special pickup are TVs, like Margaret mentioned, computer monitors, and also air conditioners. Those are usually the biggest ones. But now I have a feeling we're going to see mattresses.
I will say, it's one of the time, I actually love the like scrap metal guys, because the scrap metal guys, they'll take those air
They do,
conditioners
you're
right
right.
away.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to schedule anything for an old washer or dryer either. The scrap metal guys, they'll just take that away. Thank you, Nathalia. That is very helpful. And I assume that we can also share that on our social media channels as well.
Absolutely. Yes, please do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are very helpful resources. We appreciate it. As it is 7:22, and we are hoping to have a conversation, especially around our next two things. I am going to move us along. The next item on our agenda is the Tall Ship Entertainment License. We are joined this evening by several representatives of the Tall Ship who are going to do a presentation. A reminder that because this is a licensure question, this is going to be the first of two presentations. They will present tonight, this evening. Then we have already reserved space on our February meeting where they will be asked to give the same presentation, although maybe slightly shorter, as people will have the opportunity to view it online once we post it with the meeting minutes. And then next month, after that February meeting, then there will be a vote. The vote will be the standard process that is followed every single month that I outlined at the beginning of this meeting. You may either be in a butter to the project, or you may have attended the meeting next month and have attended once in the previous 3 months, including the December holiday gathering. That does count as attendance. So several people here I know qualify. So again, because this is a licensure, this is a 2-month process. We're going to ask them to present, and then we will have a period of question and answer. And again, a reminder, just like Andrew said earlier, we encourage you to submit questions in the chat during the presentation so that as soon as they are finished, we can immediately go into questions. I am going to go out on a limb and say that Charlie Larner, I think I said that last name correctly, is presenting along with Leslie. Am I correct?
You are correct, Margaret. Thank you very much. My name is Leslie Delaney Hawkins. I'm an attorney with Prince Lobel Ty, and I'm here on behalf of Charlie Larner and the Tall Ship. Charlie, if you just want to say hello, and we can get right into the presentation.
Hi, everyone. I'm Charlie.
So first of all, we greatly appreciate everyone, including us on the agenda here tonight. If we could move to the next slide, please. I think folks are really familiar with the Tall Ship and this concept since it's now been operating for multiple seasons. And if we could actually skip ahead to the slide that just shows the layout of the Tall Ship itself, I think that would be really helpful. So what we're here tonight, as I think most people on this call are aware, we have up to this date been operating on a series of special one-day entertainment licenses for both our non-live, meaning background music, and our live entertainment programming. And that was in part because, one, this was a completely new concept to the city of Boston and really to the Commonwealth. But two, we weren't sure how long we were going to be in this space. And the city thought it made sense for us, and as did, I believe, our landlord, to operate on a series of special one days to establish what we were doing and be on a schedule that was regularly checked in on. Given the fact that we have now entered into a longer term license agreement with Massport, the city, as well as some of the elected officials and our neighbors, have asked us to actually obtain an annual entertainment license. So instead of continually going for special one-day licenses throughout the season every few weeks, we would actually have an annual license that provided for our non-live entertainment, which is our background music, as well as our televisions, and a live entertainment license, which encompasses the other programming we do at the Tall Ship, which, as I think folks here know, we end our programming in terms of live entertainment, if not by 10 p.m., before 10 p.m. So we're not looking to change anything that we do at the space. There are absolutely no operational changes proposed. This is simply an attempt to codify our existing entertainment programming to make it more predictable for the Tall Ship staff, the neighborhood, but also for the city of Boston in terms of licensing and permitting. So this presentation looks familiar to you, I have no doubt, because it was made back in 2021 or 20, I believe, when the tall ship was first launching operations. Again, we're not looking to change anything. We're simply codifying under an annual entertainment license what we currently do at the space. As you can see, if you're not familiar with the tall ship, there's programming on the ship itself, as well as on the pier, and that includes live entertainment, movie screening. We do exercise classes and games and other community-oriented events, but we're not looking to change what we're doing in any way. So we're here tonight. We held an abutters meeting sponsored by Nathalia and the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. And obviously, we're here to present to this group and solicit your feedback and answer any questions. But I think what this really does is give additional predictability for both the tall ship as the licensee, as well as the neighborhood and the city. One thing that will absolutely not be changing is our continuous monitoring of the decibel readings in the neighborhood. Charlie and his team understand that this has become a very popular destination, and we've been proactively working with the city, with the police department, with Massport to make sure that there is no negative impact on the community. And I think that anyone knows Charlie and his team knows that he's the first person you're going to get on the phone if you do have a question or concern. So
Leslie, if I could just interrupt you for just 1 second, I'm sorry. This slide that we have up here right now is obviously quite old.
If you actually, Andrew, I don't mean to just butt in, but I noticed that myself. If you just go to the next slide, it's actually the updated layout. This was an original layout.
Okay.
This updated layout is actually the one that was presented last year at your hearing. And I apologize. I noticed the same thing, and I just was holding.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. I appreciate that. And I did also want to just reiterate to everyone that the people listening to this presentation right now, if you have questions that you would like asked of the presenters, you need to put them in the chat. We will ask direct abutters who have registered 24 hours in advance to speak out loud. I have to tell you, there's only 3 people who did that. So pretty much everybody, unless you're the 3 people that I will announce when the presentation is over, you'll need to put your questions in the chat, and you can do that at any time during the presentation. Go ahead, Leslie.
no, thank you, and I appreciate that. And I'll also put my contact in the chat. We understand that this is the first of 2 meetings, but Charlie and his team are always here to answer questions and engage in a conversation with the community. So we're always here to have a discussion. But thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Charlie, for clarifying that this is the updated schematic. Again, we're not looking to change anything. We're simply looking to replace the special 1-day licenses, which are done on kind of a week-to-week basis, with an actual live and non-live entertainment license. And one of the things that I think is important to note is that those licenses are controlled just as the tall ship's liquor license is controlled by the licensing board and the Mayor's Office of Consumer Affairs and Licensing. So we'll continue to be monitored just as any other license would be. Charlie, is there anything that you want to add here?
No, I think you said everything. As you guys, as Leslie had mentioned, we are not looking to change anything. This is strictly to change the way our paper trail is for applying for licenses, and it's something that's going to streamline it and make it a little easier. We're continually looking forward to working with the neighborhood, making everybody happy. That's our #1 priority. And I apologize about that last slide being on here. I should have spoken up a little sooner, but this is the presentation that was presented last year at the same neighborhood hearing, and this is the current layout of the space.
Thank you. And I think, again, we look at this as an opportunity to continue our conversations with the community and to streamline this licensing process. The 1-day special 1-day entertainment license process includes sign off from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, the police captain, as well as the Mayor's Office of Consumer Affairs and Licensing on a week-to-week basis. And that was really what spurred the request for us to consider, especially given the fact that the tall ship now has several years that it's going to still be at this location, which we didn't initially expect. And that's one of the reasons the city wanted us to kind of codify the existing licensure structure.
Okay, is that the end of your presentation or?
Yes.
Okay, so as of this moment, we have 2 questions in the chat. What happened to my chat? Okay, the first question is, oh, no, it was about the slide. So that one's already been answered. And the next one was, many residents have had complaints about the tall ship lacking parking, drunk customers walking through the neighborhood after last call. Why should we approve you having anything that would encourage more people to attend the tall ship?
Andrew, I'll take that. And Charlie, I'm going to ask you to speak in just a moment. Again, we're not asking for anything that changes what we're doing right now. But I also want to let Charlie, as the operator, who has been incredibly responsive to the community, talk about how he has handled, one, the monitoring of sound, which he's put a significant amount of effort into, as well as just the general operation of the space.
Well, yeah, what I will say is there's obviously a learning experience when anything opens up in a new neighborhood that attracts a large amount of people. So what we've done is we have a direct line of communication. We have phone numbers and email addresses that you can reach out at any time. I can tell you in this past season, season 1, we had a few people that we were interacting with routinely to try and mitigate noise, which with the noise issues, we there's a 70 decibel limit for the city of Boston. We're making sure we're maintaining it below 55. It seems like the barrier that is preventing, where it's good for the customer and also great for the neighborhood. We're not getting a lot of complaints about that. I will say in 2023, there was only one person that had complained at all with regards to anything, especially to the Office of Neighborhood Services that we stay close with to make sure that we are being a good neighbor and that we are resolving issues. So if you have any complaints or you're upset with how it's operating, I encourage you to reach out. I can put the phone number into this chat and I encourage you to reach out, and I'll put my email address into the chat, and I'm here to meet with you, talk to you, and help solve those issues. When you're directing it on specifically parking and intoxicated people walking through the neighborhood, we are doing our best to manage large groups of people walking through the neighborhood at one time. This is one reason that we choose to shut down no later than 11 o'clock every single night. We do have a 1 a.m. liquor license, but we make it on our own accord to shut down at 11 so that we don't have people walking around the neighborhood.
But see, that's I don't mean to make it sound like I want you to stay open later, but my point was going to be the fact that what ends up happening is that those people then go to other bars and try to drink at those bars, and they're wandering through the neighborhood looking to party more, is what ends up happening. And I feel like if they hadn't been overserved to begin with, then that might not be the problem.
Well, our rule is to make sure, legally we're responsible for making sure we don't overserve our customers. So, and I will say we do have the licensing board that comes in routinely and checks our patrons, checks what we're doing, our operations, and we haven't gotten a violation at that premise once. So, so I can say I feel we're doing a pretty good job because we get inspected routinely, like we should, and we haven't had an issue yet where they've found people to be intoxicated to the point where we would get a violation or a hearing notice. So,
Charlie, I just want to jump in there. Obviously, every licensed premise has an obligation to ensure they do not overserve their patrons. Not only has the tall ship never been found to have overserved any of their patrons, they've never had an alleged violation of overservice. They've never even gone to a hearing. Now, can any bar, restaurant establishment control what everyone does? Absolutely not. We don't know what people do before. We don't know what people do after. But what we do know is that it's our responsibility, that this license is a privilege, to monitor our patrons and to ensure that we're not serving individuals who, when they come in, even if they didn't appear intoxicated when they walked in the door, if they appear intoxicated when they're at the bar, when they're ordering a beverage, that's our responsibility to say no and to ask them to leave. And I can tell you that we have received any number of complaints for doing just that, saying, no, you're not going to be allowed in, or, you know what, you've had one too many. You're going to need to move on. Let's get you an Uber. Let's get you a glass of water. And that's something that Charlie, having operated multiple establishments, is very well versed in, as is his team, in managing those individuals. So not only have we not received any notice of an alleged violation, we've also never had an actual complaint of someone coming from the tall ship that's ever been verified to another establishment. Now, is this church? It's absolutely not. This is a a venue that people want to come to. And we're here to continue working with the community to make sure that we adhere to all of those rules and regulations. But we understand that this is a privilege and that we are in the East Boston community and we're lucky to be here.
Okay, thank you for that.
And can I just say one thing? It's also something that we're going to be working on for our tenure. I mean, we don't want to be a bad neighbor. We want to be an amenity to the neighborhood. So it's our utmost importance to make sure that, we aren't being a deterrent here to the neighborhood.
Okay, this next, thank you for that. The next one, this person says, this might be super basic. Actually, I think this is a great question. But Leslie, you mentioned that if you get the license, nothing changes. If you don't get the license, what changes? Like, is there, what's the difference? I guess is what
nothing. For the purposes of our operations, the difference is that with the special one-day licenses, you apply on a week-to-week basis, and they have to be reviewed by the police captain, by the mayor's office of neighborhood services, and by the city of Boston licensing staff, and signed off on every week. When this was just going to be a 1 or 2 year endeavor, and no one really knew if it was going to work out, that made sense. But at this juncture, given the fact that it's a more permanent or semi-permanent scenario, from an administrative purpose, it made sense for this. The other thing is that once you are granted an annual license, just like your liquor license can be suspended or taken away, if you're a bad actor, the same can be done with your entertainment license. One could argue that the same could be done with the special one days, but when you're not given something, it's more difficult for something to be taken away. So again, we're not looking to change operationally how this works at all. This is honestly more of an administrative fix.
Okay, thank you.
I don't mean to interrupt, but we have had a large influx of people who've joined the meeting in the last couple of minutes. So I do just want to do that. And I apologize for everyone who's been here, who's now heard this announcement now a third time. But just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded, and this recording is available publicly on the Jeffreys Point website. Also, we were joined by one person who's on the phone. So if we could just ask the person whose phone number ends in 6882 to unmute themselves and provide your name really quickly, just so we could have an accurate attendance list, and you would be eligible to vote potentially at future meetings. Is that someone? 6882.
They haven't unmuted, so I think we should move on.
Okay.
There's a lot of questions, so.
Okay, just wanted to check. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. This person is asking if you could please discontinue the use of wristbands and go with a stamp or something else that doesn't produce litter.
It's a great idea. That's definitely something we can take into account.
Because I do see them around the neighborhood on the street, like people leave and they rip them off, so.
I couldn't agree more. One of the reasons we have 2 people that actually go around and clean rubbish in the neighborhood every single day while we're open. And I agree. I think it's extra trash. Stamps are hard because they can be transferred if they get a little wet to underage minors, but I think we can work on finding maybe a solution that isn't wristbands, but something else that would work just as
Awesome.
well.
Okay, thank you. This person has a comment. I think this is great to have more nightlife and entertainment that is community aware and community responsive. I would just encourage more family-friendly events and community events at your location. So that's just a comment there. This person has said that they've reached out to you and received no response. I can give you their contact information afterwards. This person. Sorry, I'm just going to read this. FYI to all residents, the public phone line they have provided means that complaints do not go to the police or to the mayor's office. This means when they go before the liquor licensing board, the list of these complaints is not seen because they were collected privately. When you have complaints, call the police or the mayor's office first, so the licensing board is aware of the impact to your quality of life, which is a valid point.
We wouldn't argue with that in any way.
And this person is asking if you can go over what, and I was going to ask this myself, can you go over what are the plans for parking? Have you considered allowing free parking instead of valet? It would make a huge difference for neighbors, and or I was going to add adding additional parking off-site, like if you're going to do valet, because it does become a burden on the neighborhood streets with a lot of people. I see them parking near my house and I live blocks and blocks away from you.
So yeah, I can give I couldn't agree more. We didn't have as big of an issue, I think, this year, because our as the first year. But let me just give a little background of the difficulty with the parking. It's not. We would like to propose more parking on that pier. However, there's two other governing bodies that are involved with the waterfront, and that is the Conservation Commission and the DEP Chapter 91, both of which would require an extensive period of time to approve vehicles on the pier outside of the vehicles that are currently allowed on the pier. So for us to do it, I can tell you just for the approval process, which is something we've discussed, but the approval process is not a 1 year, 2 year process with the Conservation Commission and Chapter 91. I have discussed it with them offline. It's a much longer period, and that's something that we are working on, but something that is not going to be able to be resolved in a timely fashion.
Okay. This is another comment. I will always oppose the tall ship because the tall ship was approved for 5 more years in a private process with elected officials, not giving residents any opportunity to air grievances or ask you to address issues. Did you want to make a statement about that before I move on?
I would just say that we understand our liquor license is a privilege and our use of this parcel is a privilege, and we look forward to continuing to work with all of the residents.
Okay. The next comment / question: when you open in 2023, are you going to have college football on the big screen? It would be great to have a place to watch games, especially with sports betting now legal in Massachusetts.
The screen is specifically just for television and movie purposes. So what we had proposed a year ago, which was football games, sporting events, and movie nights. So one of the big things so the answer is yes, but also one of the big things we're doing is for the neighborhood and the community is we want to do a weekly movie night with rated G movies for children and families to come on down and see and watch movies. So yeah, but the answer is yes, we will be playing games on that television.
Okay, and then the next question is, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to read it just so that I don't feel like I'm leaving this person out. Does this mean you will have more live entertainment?
No.
Since this has become a permanent, semi-permanent scenario, has there been a Chapter 91 review for this newly permanent, semi-permanent use?
So right now, the answer is no, not yet. No. So it's on right now, a renewing 1 year permit, and we are going to be applying for a license so that we don't have to go every single year for the permit. And there's discussions now of that process, but it has not been finalized yet.
And then just to give a little perspective, a little context to what Charlie said, the difference between a permit and a license in terms of Chapter 91 is that a permit has to be renewed every year, whereas a license reapplied for every year, where a license can just be renewed every year. But as Charlie said, that process for going from one to the other has not been finalized.
Okay. And I guess I may have possibly misinterpreted the question earlier regarding whether or not if you get your license. If you don't get your license, will the tall ship continue to operate? And if so, what would change? I think that's what they were asking with the last question, the other question.
Nothing will change. It will still be operating. It will have live events. We will just be, when we do our events, we will be applying with a specific application for the one-day entertainment license for the dates. And I know Leslie said it's a weekly thing. We can also do it, like on a month, like on a multi-event basis, which we also do. So, if we know we're having 5 live events in the course of a month, we will fill out 5 applications at one period and send them down to the police department for signatures. And but no, nothing will change. It will still operate the same way it's been operating.
Okay. Next question. If this longer term license is approved, at what intervals will it be renewed? It seems like this license reduces the opportunity for the neighborhood to have a voice if there are continued issues.
I would actually say it's the opposite, because it would be an annual license that's renewed each year in actually the month of October, as opposed to November with the liquor license. But just like any other license, and this goes back to the comment about contacting the licensing board and the police department. Again, the license is a privilege. If there is a bad actor exercising it, and we really don't believe we are a bad actor, the license can be suspended at any time. So this is more of an administrative change than anything else in terms of operation and impact, but there is still more than an open door policy with the city to discuss this.
This person, thank you. What this person is asking, what is the yearly change in operating costs for moving away from the daily licenses and towards the semi-permanent they're thinking this is a liquor license. So this is solely entertainment, right? Not liquor.
No, but there is a cost, and the cost is less on a yearly basis than on a daily basis.
Okay. And Margaret, I just saw your message. Yeah, we have quite a few more, so I'll try and speed through them. This person is saying that for more parking, please contact the Boston Harbor Shipyard, as they have a gravel lot that is used for boat storage in the wintertime, and during the summer it is empty and could potentially be used for your valet parking, which you may already know. This other ones, Charlie gave a great answer with lots of context about parking earlier. For clarity, could he answer these two directly? Could you allow free parking instead of paid at the tall ship? I'll wait for your answer.
So the reason that it's paid at the tall ship is because one of the things that we had agreed upon with the parking is to have valet parking, and the valet company needs to make revenue for them to do it. So,
but you understand that what that does is make people not want to park there because they have to pay money to park there. So they're going to park our streets.
I totally understand, but I can tell you that there's there is there are a lot of cars that park there. So I understand that there's obviously 100% going to be an issue with that. That is one of the things we are trying to change. We do not want cars that are coming to the tall ship taking up resident spots in the neighborhood streets.
Okay, the other part of their question is basically what a couple other people have mentioned is trying to look for additional valet parking that's off the pier. So that if it's possible, so like, for example, the Boston Harbor Shipyard that was suggested. This person has a comment, great idea for family movies. Do you plan to change the over 21 years only after 7 p.m.?
After last year's hearings, we did change it. So this whole past year, any age can go onto the tall ship at any time. So that was changed prior to the whole 2022 season.
Okay. And
Hence the wristband, hence the need for the wristband. But yes, that was already changed.
Oh, it was. Okay. This is a person who asked the question about the difference in your costs. What was the difference in that cost annually?
We can.
It's
So sorry.
I'm just asking the question of the resident. So you choose.
yeah, no, I don't mind. I don't mind answering it. I don't know. I mean, I think like, well, when you get a 1 day, it's based on every time you have an event. So if I just base it off of last year, and the amount of events we used, let's say it was, I don't know. This is totally like off the cuff. Don't quote me on this, but I know it was like around, like maybe around like $5 or $6 grand we spent for the whole year. If we got a entertainment license, I believe it would be somewhere around, I mean, Leslie probably would know better than I would, but I would guess like, I don't know, $4 grand. Is that about right? Like
about that. And again, it's less the cost and more the actual, again, administrative function of it. We're not talking about 20 grand versus 3 grand.
Got it. Yep. That's
it's relatively inexpensive, but it is a little bit more.
Okay. So this person making a statement: an annual license allows additional acts and nights without prior approval. So are you committed to staying with the number that you have? And I guess in addition to this question, what was the number that you had last year?
We are averaging about 2 live events, 2 to 3 per, like 2 per week is about what we were doing. And yes, we don't want any more. The answer is you will not see an influx of events. I can tell you the majority of our live entertainment events were actually things we were doing for the community and for fundraisers and community events. The majority of the live entertainments we had to pull last year were for that.
Charlie, just to jump in there, in Boston, anything besides background music and small televisions is considered live entertainment. I think one of the things that we can commit to, and Charlie, I think your team would be more than happy to do this, is to continue, whether it's to the JPNA or just to providing that list of upcoming events, because that's what we've done. And Charlie made a good point that sometimes we do it on a monthly basis. So there is predictability around that. That's something that we can continue to do. We're not looking to suddenly turn this into something different. It's simply that we don't want everyone to have to spend the time and effort to pull one of these special 1 days for every time we have any event.
Okay. And that person was following up also about like how many nights of entertainment he anticipated in 2023, which I feel you've already answered. So basically you're stating roughly 2 to 3 per week is what you estimate.
Yeah, I can tell you this. We would be booking, like last year we had Dalton and the Sheriffs and and then usually another country artist or some other vocalist another day of the week. We were doing a lot with the reggae band, Conscious Reggae. We would be booking like 2 acts a week, and then if there was a community event or something, that would be the third, which would bring it up. And then it's not every week we're doing Conscious Reggae either, so it's more like there'll always be at least 1. It's probably going to be 2, and then if there was a community event where there where we were required to, they wanted to bring in live entertainment, then we would have that too.
And this person is asking how you monitor the noise and where you monitor it at. And do you monitor on, I guess that this will answer the question if you answer what I just asked.
Yeah, all right. So we have decibel readers. So we have machines that actually read decibel readings. And we monitor it in multiple locations. So we monitor it on the premise itself. We monitor at the top of the pier, directly at the entrance of the gate. We monitor at the public dock that is to the side of us, because the noise does travel a little faster and louder over the water. And so we have multiple people. Every 30 minutes, we have a logbook for this. So every 30 minutes, decibel readings are being recorded. That doesn't mean that we only check it every 30 minutes. It's every 30 minutes we're putting it in the logbook. If a manager or anyone on site thinks that it was getting a little loud. Based on, I mean, sometimes a different song plays on our sound system, and just the song itself is louder than the previous song. So it's things like that that we're monitoring. If that happens, then we go out and we monitor it as well. But
Yeah,
I can tell you that
this person was specifically mentioning bass being an issue where they live. So just to point out, we do have one final question. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. We're just running a little short on time. As part of your marketing for the tall ship, they're asking if you can include public transit options, water taxi and ferry, and any marketing that you do for your business as a way to try and encourage people to use those modes of transportation.
yeah, absolutely. And if in case anyone is unfamiliar with this, our hospitality company, Navy Yard Hospitality, actually has Boston Launch Company in it, which is a free complimentary water shuttle ferry service around the Boston Harbor that is subsidized completely by the restaurant group and allows free transportation for anyone, not just going to our establishments, anyone with the public to just get on the boat and go for a free boat ride around the harbor, or to go from point A to point B, which is East Boston to the Seaport, East Boston to the North End, East Boston to Charlestown. So we have multiple locations, and we push public transportation and our shuttle service.
Okay. All right, that was the last question. Margaret.
Excellent. Thank you very much for answering all of our questions, Charlie and Leslie. And Andrew, great job. That was a lot to go through for an intense period of time there. So great job. As a reminder, I know I said this before this particular presentation, but I do want to repeat it because, as I mentioned, we did have a large number of people join us while they were talking, that this is because this is a licensure. This is a 2-month process, this being the first presentation. We will have them present again next month. Hopefully we won't have to go, it won't take as long, but they will be available to answer questions. And then the vote will be online. A reminder that one thing that we have noticed in the past is if you register for this meeting and attend this meeting using one email address, and then you attend next month using another email address, you know, say you logged in tonight and used your work email and next month you use personal or you switch that, that counts you as not attending the same meeting because we think that you're two different people because it is tracked through your email address. So please, when you attend, please be consistent on the email address that you use. We are going to move on the agenda this evening. I would like to thank Susan Wang, who is our board member, for putting together the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association Year in Review for 2022. A reminder that we are going to do, we're going to have Susan do the presentation, and then we're going to move into a discussion for a few minutes, asking for feedback from the community about some of the things that you'd like to see this upcoming year. But I will turn it over to Susan. And again, thank you, Susan, for your great work on this. You know, you're on mute, right?
Okay, can everyone hear me?
There you go.
Perfect. Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. We are excited to share our 2022 year in review. So the purpose of the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association is to address community concerns, foster civic engagement, and work with our elected officials and community leaders to enhance our unique and diverse neighborhood. So within the community, we host events like our summer picnic, our potlucks, and our movie nights. For the environment, we work with, we help guide development projects, and we also work to improve our public spaces. And then for engagement, we work with our elected officials and other city departments. At least once a year, we invite our elected officials to join our meetings and give us updates on what they're doing and how they're working with our constituents, and they're also here to answer our questions. Our board is comprised of 5 people. We have our co-chairs, Margaret and Rachel. I am your vice chair. We have Andrew, our treasurer, and then Josh, our secretary. In terms of our accomplishments and what we did this year, in July, we had our summer picnic. And then as also part of Eastie Week, we had our movie night in Brophy Park where we had Encanto. In September, we had a busy month. We had our Love Your Block cleanup. We had daffodil planting in Brophy and Porzio Parks. And then we also hosted the Great Swap. In November, we had the Brophy Park decorations, which were sponsored by the Persac Group. And then in December, we had our holiday potluck at the Yacht Club. And that was also in person. And it was really, really great to see people in person and to gather in person. In terms of our development projects this year, for planning and zoning, this year we reviewed 10 total projects. Of those 10 projects, 4 of those projects attended one planning and zoning meeting before moving to a vote. 2 projects went through 2 planning and zoning meetings before moving to a vote. And then 2 projects went through 3 P&Z meetings before moving to a vote. Currently, we have 2 projects from last year that are still waiting to move to a vote this year. In terms of voting, this year, residents voted on 9 development projects. And of those 9, residents voted, the majority voted in favor of 2 projects and opposed 7 projects. And you can see a summary of the voting results below. And now I'll turn it over to Andrew to give an overview of our financials for the year.
Okay, so we had a total of 2 deposits for the year. Actually, it's 3 total. We had 2 separate donations from Jeffreys Point residents. I have to be honest with you, I don't remember one of them, but one of them was Ron Stoya. Thank you, Ron Stoya. The other one, I could not find the information for, and I apologize. If you want to tell me who you are, I will be happy to say your name at a future meeting. We did also have so obviously some expenses for the year. Our Home Depot expense was actually buying some supplies for the movie night. I think we got a thing to put lemonade in and things like that. I happened to find it at Home Depot. We have a fee every year to the Mass Attorney General for filing. We paid Mary Cole back for the 2021 Brophy Park decorations. So that was actually a 2021 expense, but that's when the check was cashed. And it was cashed in 2022. And then we also had our 2022 potluck, which ended up being a very similar amount as the Brophy Park decorations. We had a lot of technology expenses. These are all annual expenses or monthly expenses. Our largest being Zoom. We had to increase our what's the word I'm looking for? Our plan in order to accommodate the number of people that we've had at certain meetings. The basic plan only allows for 100 people, and we actually had a couple meetings where we exceeded that. So now we're prepared to handle any volume of meetings. I think it goes up to 500 now, which I couldn't imagine us ever having. Then we obviously have our insurance expense, and then we do have a PO box, which if anybody feels like sending us a letter, it's PO Box 342, East Boston, Mass. 02128. And that's where we receive basically just bills. So send us a love note. Ending balance for the year, $7,245.11. Overall, pretty good year. We've got a good nest egg in there, but we do have planned for 2023 a couple more fundraising events, and the board I know has discussed in ways in which we could spend some of this money in helping the neighborhood. So I'm sure that'll be more to come in 2023. That's all for me.
Speaking of 2023, some of our goals for this year, we want to work to increase our attendance and participation in monthly and P&Z meetings. That's something that we definitely want feedback on and getting ideas on how we can work to do that. We do also want to continue and support and engage with the BPDA's ongoing Plan East Boston project. We also want to promote engagement with other East Boston boards. We'd like to continue to support the Friends of Brophy Park and also Friends of the Golden Stairs Terrace. And then we want to reintroduce the JPNA Fall Fling. We are meeting next week to start the planning process for that. So we are very excited to be bringing that back this year. As always, we are always looking for feedback. So you're always welcome to email us at board@jeffreyspoint.org. Margaret.
Thank you so much, Susan. I appreciate you and Andrew putting this together. I think it's really important that we provide a snapshot of what we've accomplished here at the JPNA in the past year. We'd like to take a couple minutes to solicit some feedback about activities for this year. There is a small, and there's like 5 of you, but so there's about 5 people who are very vocal that they would like us to return to in-person meetings. And if any of the board members disagree with anything I say, please chime in. I know that you have no problems with that, especially Andrew. But we have been concerned that we would need to have 2 additional people who were not necessarily board members, but 2 people who would need to dedicate themselves per meeting to taking items to the meeting, setting things up, and then acting as the producer. We think, and this has been an internal discussion, we have not committed to this. There has been some chatter about potentially bringing the P&Z back in person, because the P&Z, number 1, is a smaller meeting. Number 2, it's meant to focus more on abutters. So we would like to hear thoughts on that. Number 1. The other thing is that the feedback from people when asking them, why do you want to return in person, has been that it is difficult to meet new members of the community, that people miss getting together, and that now that we feel it's safer, we should be getting together. So the other thought was internally was that should the JPNA host or promote more in-person events? And if we should, what should those look like? You know, do we want to see more in the spring? One of the things that we've heard from parents is that they'd like to see us returning to doing at least 2 movies a summer, if not 3. But if the Tall Ship is coming back, maybe that's not maybe that's not as important if the Tall Ship is going to start showing kids movies on a regular basis. So we'd like to take a few minutes to open up and one of the reasons that we wanted to finish with the Tall Ship in time was that we wanted to take a few minutes and kind of open the floor. We encourage people to raise their hand. You can, put things through the chat, through Andrew, or potentially raise a hand if you feel very strongly. But we'd like to hear some of your thoughts on this. Do you want to get together more in person? Do you feel that it's incredibly important that we have an in-person meeting? What are your thoughts? I know we say you should email us, but it's not always easy to send an email out and get an email out to get your feedback or put your thoughts together. So we wanted to provide people a few minutes to say, we're here. We're interested in hearing what you think.
So there have only been 3 people people were already commenting while you were talking. There's 3 people.
Perfect. I was hoping I would talk long enough.
There's 3 people who have said, no, please don't. There haven't been no others that have
Please
said,
don't what?
Don't go back to in person is what they're talking about.
Okay. So if we did go back to in person, let me explain that a little bit more. I don't mean in person as in like, oh, hey, we just meet in person and that's it. In talking to the board members, we all agree there's been a significant increase in participation when we are online, and we don't want to lose that.
Another one. I like Zoom meetings because I work and can't always attend in person.
So when we say a meeting, we mean an in-person meeting. What we really mean is a hybrid. We mean that there would be like the board basically would be sitting in a room together, staring at each other, with the opportunity for people to come in person. However, there would need to be, Mary Cole and a couple of other board members have worked on putting together like a plan of what it would look like. We figured we'd need at least 2 microphones, at least 2 cameras, a screen. There'd be need to be a producer behind the scenes who like shows which camera you were looking at or looking at the presentation. Which microphone would be active, the one that's up at the board or the one that's people or someone in the audience. Then when questions came in through the chat, someone would need to ask those. So when we say that we're reticent about going back in person, like you understand the amount of work involved. Like that's what I'm trying to convey, which is why we're considering having planning and zoning be in person, because fewer people attend those. And it tends to be a focus on abutters. So when I say in person, what I really mean is hybrid. I apologize for the confusion.
So I'm just going to sort of put things together. It seems to me from the people that are answering today, not that we're making our decision based solely upon that, but the people today are mostly saying that they would like it to remain on Zoom. There's a couple people who have mentioned a hybrid option, but I think we all agree that and one person actually commented this, that it seems like it's a lot of work to do a hybrid option, and it's much more simple to keep it on Zoom. But I think our conversation about allowing people to speak at the P&Z meetings as a pilot program is definitely going to be helpful and making people feel like their voice is heard. As we've all discussed as a board, there's a lot that comes with trying to do it back in person again, finding a location, etc. So
yes, because we could not if we go back into a hybrid, because the meeting would be recorded, we cannot return to the yacht club. They are a private club, and that is one of the few rules that they have, and which has always existed, by the way, is that they do not allow recordings at the club. I see that Caitlin has her hand up.
yes, Caitlin, did you want to say something?
Hey, first of all, thank you so much for putting everything together today, and then also for considering in person. If it were just me, I would always show up on Zoom. However, I also know that I have certain neighbors who want to be involved and who are not here tonight because the only way one of them is ever going to be here is if he's in the room with me. And I think the option that some meetings could be in person could really help be a little bit more welcoming. I think there's a certain demographic that feels very comfortable on Zoom, and potentially other demographics that don't. And I think that we live in a really rich, diverse community in age, in so many different types of backgrounds. And so I think this could, I know it's a lot of work, and if I'm out of town a lot. So if I'm in town, I would definitely help bring stuff over. So I'll raise my hand for that. So I just love that you're considering it. I think it's a great idea. If it were up to me, again, I'd be on Zoom, but I also really hear a lot of my neighbors wanting to be more involved. And in-person stuff sounds amazing. I was out of town for the December holiday party, but I would love to meet more of the neighbors.
Okay, thank you. Missy, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I love the idea of it being in person. I also really, I think like most of us have appreciated the ways that in which we can be efficient remotely. And so if we want to say like, is there a once a quarter opportunity to be in person? And then we look to say like, hey, all of you folks who participate, do you want to host? Like, I would say like, I'll host once a quarter as a space in which to host people who want to come, like, so that way we can quell all concerns of like privacy of a space. Like I would happily say, yeah, I'll host a meeting in my place if people want to come here. Maybe that's wild and crazy. And maybe I've had like a glass too much of wine. I don't know. I'm just saying that like, cause like I love the Zoom, but I also really do love the opportunity to meet people in person. And I don't, once a month in person seems like unnecessary. Like we're super efficient. We're all busy. We all have shit going on. Like, but just want to say, I do like the opportunity to meet in person as needed and not also feel like we're scrapping and being crazy to find a space. So that's my, like, so once a quarter, I will happily raise my hand and provide a space. And
so actually, Missy, I think you've actually made a really great proposal there. Actually about, about the idea of like, having like a little host committee.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of saying like, hey, we're looking for like 3 or 4 people, and we're asking for 3 or 4 people who would put together an event in say like the March, April timeframe for just neighbors to get together. Like, what do you guys, who's interested in being like on the host committee for something? Like, I mean, I think that, would allow people to like, number one, meet while you're in the planning process. And number 2, allow for some creativity. Cause I mean,
it's a couple times a year. Like we can like between all of us, we can all host once a year. I don't know, that's just how I feel about it.
I
Like,
think
it sounds-
doing it at someone's home might be a little challenging, just because occasionally we do have a significant amount of people, so it might be a little bit too much.
I don't know, I'm just trying to think of something.
I love the idea, and I thank you for offering your place. But I did want to also just make sure that everybody understands we have no intention of not doing our meetings on Zoom, like removing Zoom from the
Totally,
picture. So because there have been a few people who have commented in here, and I want to make sure everybody understands Zoom will not go away. We will always have the online option for everyone. What we're looking at doing, it would be a hybrid option. So Margaret had said in the beginning that we were looking to go back to in person, but it was in addition to Zoom is what.
Yeah, in person. When I apologize, when I said in person, what I should have said is like a hybrid option.
Yeah.
Because we've heard overwhelmingly, we've heard from parents especially, and also, you know, Caitlin made a really great point. She travels, but she can still log in and participate. You know, the number of parents we've had who've said in years past, like, yeah, your meeting starts just as I'm putting my kid to bed. And now they're able to participate is really wonderful. And we don't want to lose anybody. We don't want to lose anybody. But if we were to do the like host committee idea, can I encourage people who might be interested in putting their names in the chat for Andrew to collect? And if people are interested, you know, maybe we can put together a little committee of people and say like, who wants to plan something for spring? And then, you know, who wants to put, you know, the good news is we have things in July and December. What we need is like something in the kind of the springtime area. And then if you're interested in helping with the fall fling, we'd love to have you for that as well.
Or if that means like, you know, a space within our neighborhood that we could host, that it wouldn't be a big deal. Like
Zoom
even
I mean, there's a lot of options. Like we could do Zoom
So
during the
many.
summer. There's tons. It's during the shoulder season that's tough, but
Yep, totally. Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. But do people like Missy's idea of like, because it sounds like Missy said, what I heard her say was that she does want to see more in-person opportunities. And I think that was kind of echoing a little what Caitlin said, that there are people who would want to come to in-person things, and that it sounds like you would like to see those opportunities. Is that echoed by others? You can do a reaction. Do I have a fun reaction? I don't think it's kind of a fun reaction. I want the animated ones. Kim Carvalho. Okay, I see a thumbs up from Kim. I see Jessica Kaur, Samsung, Dave Stein. I'm seeing some thumbs up. Okay, that's great. Lauren, good to see you, Lauren. We haven't seen you in a while. Kyle Wells, a couple other people. I think Josh likes the idea. He says that not knowing how much work he's going to do. Okay, that is really good feedback. Also, one other thing that we had discussed as a board is that we would like to see an increase in the number of movie nights. But do people want to see the increase to 2 or to 3? So if people could throw that in the chat, that would be really helpful. We always do one traditionally as part of Eastie Week, which will be in July. We're one of the events that they count on, they said to me last year. They said, we count on you, just tell us which date, we'll put you down. But the question of should we do 3 when there's we've had feedback in both directions. On one hand, people are like, hey, this is the closest one to my house, I can come into my pajamas. And on the other hand, people have said, well, there's a lot of movies around around the city now. So, or if you have a suggestion for another event that we could do in Brophy Park, that would be something instead of a movie night, we would also be happy to consider that as well.
Like watering or cleaning up dog poop?
Well, we would have to do those before we did the event. I will say, I understand it's annoying. I will say that if we tend to post something where the dog bags go the Monday before we do an event on a Friday, like telling people in this area, we're going to have an event, I will say people do tend to try to respect it. Not everyone, but it tends to be much cleaner. So when we put it out there, the dog owners tend to be pretty good. Okay. I know we're getting on to 8:20. I'd just like to say, does anyone have any other feedback, any other comments, any other things that they'd like to express? I don't want to cut us off if people have things they'd like to talk about, but I also don't want to keep us here if people feel that they've had a chance to express themselves.
We're all good. Let's wrap it up.
Okay. In that case, by the powers vested in me, oh, actually, you know what? There is one thing I wanted to say. I did want to remind people that every year there is an election because we are now on a staggered system with board seats. The schedule for the election is that in April, we announced that there's going to be an election in June. In May, we announce it again and then open up nominations. And then the nominations close and candidates present, and then there is a vote in June. It is highly likely that we will have at least one open seat this year. You know, just with people's lives changing. And I am putting this out there because we have heard many times over the years that unless someone expresses, oh, you know, yes, I'm stepping down, yes, I'm stepping away, people won't run because they don't want to feel like they're pushing someone off. When it's very common that people stay because there aren't people running and they don't want to leave us shorthanded. So what I just would say is if you are considering or would like to be more involved or considering running for a seat, I encourage you to do so. If you have any questions about the process, about what it's like to be on the board, the involvement and commitment level necessary, please reach out to any board member that you are comfortable talking with. We are happy to talk with you, but we'd like people to start thinking now about whether or not they'd like to run in June. No surprises. But again, by the power vested in me by the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association, I would like to say thank you to everyone who has joined us this evening. We appreciate your time when there are so many other fun things that are going on. The planning and zoning meeting this week will be on Wednesday, January 18th, and we'll have 4 Haynes Street. However, the full agenda will be published by on or by January 11th. The February meeting will be on Monday, February 13th on this same Zoom location. And you would get here the same way through registering and going through the link. As always, we are available at our email address at board@jeffreyspoint.org, and meeting minutes along with a recording of this particular meeting. And all of the presentations you have seen here this evening will be available on our website at www.jeffreyspoint.org. Thank you so much and have a great night.